live from our garden today. It is the 7th of March, and we had posted an Instagram story this week about our low tunnel and got a number of questions about it. So we thought we would just tell you how we make our tunnel and why we make it, in case you might want to make one of your own. We've been wanting to grow ranunculus for years now, and all the people that we follow or learn from have big production. They build these big hoop houses and they have, thousands of ranunculus planted. We only wanted to grow about 400, so we weren't sure if we could do that. In our zone, we're in zone 5B, 6A, right? So we did some experimenting. We've been trying to grow them for 3 years now, and the first year we grew them, we had a successful ranunculus crop, but our low tunnel failed. It blew away.
Landed in the rose bushes.
Yeah, a wind came from the side and just lifted it right off. But it was thankfully, April by then?
It was actually toward the end of March, and so it was warm enough that the frost blanket was enough to keep it warm.
Right. So we didn't really need it anymore anyhow, which was nice. But the next year we tried an experiment that completely and utterly failed. So then this year we went back to the low tunnel, and I think we found a method that will work. Now, after our stories that we did earlier this week, last night we had a lot of wind come through, and Rosita heard some flapping plastic, and sure enough, one of the tunnels had sort of started to come off. So we'll show you how we batten down the hatches then.
Most places you won't need to use as extreme measures as we do, but we're on the top of a hill and get a ton of wind that comes through here.
Yeah.
So you have to really weight it down and keep the wind out.
Yeah. So we're just gonna go ahead and show you what we use, and if you have any questions, let us know.
So we use 3/4 inch electrical conduit to make our hoops, and you can just get this at your local hardware store. We use 10-foot lengths, and we actually cut ours down a bit after we made the hoops because we don't need them quite as tall. To make the hoop, you'll want to use a bender from Johnny's Seeds. That's at least where we found ours. We actually cut about 8 inches off of each side of our hoop to make it a little bit shorter. We don't need the height of a 10-foot hoop, and we actually use either 10-foot wide or 12-foot wide plastic. And so if your hoop's just a little bit shorter than that length, then you've got enough on either plastic on either side where you can put bricks on to weight it down, which is what we have to do. Most YouTube tutorials will tell you methods that you can use that use rope to hold everything down, and there's not really extra plastic on the ground. We tried that method to start with, and that's what our tunnel ended up in the rose bushes. But we've discovered, because of all the wind, it works better just to be able to have extra plastic, put tons of bricks down on either side, and the wind can't take it. This is a piece of 3/8 inch rebar. We'll put this in the ground, pound it in pretty good, maybe up to about right here, and then we'll slip the hoop right over top, and that's what keeps the hoop upright in the garden. Now, before we put the hoop on, we'll get a piece of plastic that is cut, fit real snug around here, slide it down to the ground, and then the hoop goes on top of that. That way the hoop doesn't keep going into the ground. The plastic we use for the low tunnel is 6 mil. It's like a greenhouse plastic sheeting. We just buy it on Amazon. This roll, I think, is 10 foot wide by 100 foot long. And I'm going to recommend, if you do make one of these, always make sure you have enough plastic in case your other stuff rips and flies off and whatever. Always want to have a backup.
We use construction bricks to weight our plastic down. We recommend to have a large supply of leftover bricks from a building project for that.
All right, so this is a roll of frost blanket then, and underneath the hoop we have another little layer of frost protection. We put this, strip it down over wires that are set in the ground as well. This is about a 9-gauge wire, I think, maybe. I'm not sure. But the wire holds up the frost blanket, so there's like 2 layers of protection over the ranunculus or whatever's planted. We have a very sophisticated irrigation system for our low tunnel, a watering can. It's actually surprising how moist the soil will stay under the tunnel. I think part of it because, a cover like that will trap in moisture whenever it gets warm. So we actually only have to water it every couple of times when we take the plastic off. We also like to fertilize the ranunculus every once in a while too. We don't take the cover off every day. We just do it when it gets to about 40, 44. I try not to let it on when it's over 44 degrees outside. I discovered last year or the year before, we had a little soil thermometer in there, and the air can get up to 80 degrees when it's only like 40 degrees outside. And that's a no-go for ranunculus.
If you followed Florat Flowers or any other large flower producer, it's easy to get the feeling that you have to do it how they do to have a successful crop. We've learned that you don't need a hoop house, you don't need drip irrigation. You can do all of this on a small scale too. There's a small initial investment, but you can do it for pretty cheap too.